Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me Michael Hyson. How's it going, Michael?
Going pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you back on. Today, Hyson and I are going to be going over The Devil's Picture Book by Michael Hyson. Um, so I've just kind of highlighted some portions of the book, and we're just going to just read over and discuss cartomancy and divination. So, Hyson, let's go to page 14. All right. So at the very top, it says tarot cards are nothing more than mirrors in which, if you know consciously aware of, but which the deeper unconscious part of your mind, in some mysterious manner, already knows. And I think that um, really it is a doorway to the subconscious. What do you think?
I think it is a doorway to the alpha freedom of mind, but more so, it is basically a doorway into the supernatural as well. The cards literally tell you what can happen, what will happen, but also give you deeper meaning into any given situation. So in this case, are nothing more than mirrors. If we go into, say, for an example, the 9 levels of heaven and hell, they mirror each other. Every plane, every denomination, every level. Even, say, for an example, Christopher Penziak in his third book, The Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft, even described the mind by breaking it down into 3 sections with 7 levels that describes different levels of a mirror, if you will, into the psyche and how you can perceive things. So, I mean, I think that's actually very accurate.
What would you say that some people would say that the cards are mirrors of aspects of our subconscious
I think in some cases it is because there's a little saying called self gain. Okay.
mind?
We all know that what we put forth is what we get in return. If you expect the cards to reflect your desire and you're not going in with, say, an open mind, then you're going to get exactly what you're intending to seek out. It's like if you see an apparition, you're going to have an apparition.
I think that what it comes down to is intent is everything.
Exactly.
What your intention is when you start out with everything.
Exactly. And that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But and when you take into account the intent, it's the same thing when you're going into it and you're expecting something. Your intent is what you're going to get in return.
I think your intention will kind of color everything that you focus on.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then going down further, it says not only must the deck appeal to you, but the card designs must be striking enough to impress themselves upon your imagination sufficiently to transform them into effective deep mind mirrors. Your tarot deck must become part of you. So I think that it is good when the cards are given to you.
Yeah.
They a lot of times people, you will find that the cards, if they're given to you, just work really great. On the other hand, if you're seeking out a certain deck, it is important that it appeals to you. What do you think?
I think the one thing I was always led to believe, and this is coming from elders within paganism and Wicca. In my younger days, I used to run with a certain crowd, and the mother of one of these fellow satanic witches that I knew and hung around with She told me point blank that the cards choose the practitioner. I think that's true because it's the same thing with the Athame. It's the vibrational harmony, if you will, the harmonizing of both coming together that fit. That's what makes it work. It's like if something was given to you, it's always good to cleanse first so that you can put your own energy into it. But you got to also take into consideration if it's coming from a long line of, say, practitioners, and all that energy and all that knowledge is stored into it already, and it's being added to yours. So you have to harmonize and connect to it. So I think that's actually a fair assessment of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's see. Following page. In this context, the lesser cards of each suit are immediately comparable to the subjects of the Lord and Lady, in much the same way that the pawns of a chessboard belong to the king and queen of their own color. I guess that's a unique way of looking at it.
Very much true.
Because the symbolism is going to be similar. So, of course, I'm just kind of going all over the place here in the introduction.
I think page 15 says it all, second paragraph.
Let me see here. Oh, from the passage I just read here.
Yeah.
About the lesser cards of each suit comparable
to the swords, cups, and chalices, goblin-like symbols, the rods and scepters.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is not only is that true, but numerology also comes into play. So let's say that, if you get, the 4 of cups, 4 means stability, so that card would carry the energy of stability in your love life and how that pertains to your situation.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
But the cups and the chalice, which is the other name for it, basically that is what is referred to as the life force. So life and death current. It's like the Holy Grail, if you will. Whereas, say, for an example, the scepters or wands is more spiritual or magical, if you will.
Or just battle in general.
Yeah, basically. Exactly. So, I mean, the symbolism of it comes down to astrological, alchemy, numerology, and the folklore creatures that can be put onto them. Like if you're following, say, the Ian Daniels tarot card deck, for an example, you'll have the Chimera, you'll have the Ravens, the Black Panthers, you'll have the Wolves. So you got these animals symbolization that comes into effect. You've got, say, for an example, the planetary aspects, such as the moon or the sun. You have the chalice or the skulls that are placed in it, the swords, or depending on which suit you're dealing with. So then you have the numbers as well that is added into it, not just the zodiac symbols. Like the Gemini or the Aries, Aquarius or whatever.
That's why I like looking at decks that have the astrological symbols on them, as well as the numbers, as well as this and that and that. And it's not just completely one-dimensional. Even though if it just had numbers on it, you could look at just the numbers combined with the art and see if, because the art itself will pertain to the aspect of your life if you're doing a reading, or to the person who's seeking answers.
Exactly. And I think part of that also goes into what we read before of what the cards represent on page 14 at the top, the intuition aspect. Because I think a lot of that really comes down to your interpretation, what you feel and what you're getting from the cards when you're doing the reading. So, I mean, it helps to know the symbolizations. It helps you know all of this stuff and what the cards represent, each one, because it has different levels, different degrees. So on each suit. So in this case, knowing this stuff will actually benefit you. So I do agree with Paul on this one. his books are his book is very accurate. It's unique. It's not even biased.
It is unique.
It's a good, honest look at it.
Wait, hold on. Test 1 2. There's kind of an echo on your end. Maybe it's from my voice. Test 1 2. Okay, I guess it's gone now.
Yeah, it could be mine. I've also got a cat running too, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's
maybe
probably
that's
what
got
you're
something
hearing.
to do with it.
And then my chair's squeaking as I'm rocking.
Now, let's see. Okay, on page 19, I'm not sure if you'll be able to follow along in your book, but on page 19, a little past the middle part, it says tarot images are archetypes and perform in a characteristic, seemingly autonomous manner when left to their own devices, apparently picking the right associations out of the storehouse of the deep mind. And I think that's got a lot to do with the fact that, if you're shuffling the cards and you're thinking of a question, one just pops out. It popped out for a reason. What do you think?
Well, in my personal experience, there is a couple of different ways of doing this. Number one, you have what is called an open read. Basically, it's open for interpretation. But it also comes down to when you draw the card or when you're shuffling the card, are you contacting a particular entity for their divine, intervention in this topic for answers? Are you trying to seek an answer directly through the cards? Are you just going in with a particular question, or are you just seeing what's going to unfold? Now, personally, in my experience, and this is, I'm going to kind of do this from a recent thing. A client of mine came to me and was talking to me about a particular event that's been going on. I did a reading right there. This client never told me anything about what the topic was or anything. All I did was an open read. Okay. I did the reading. It was a 6-card read. Added a few more cards. And here we are about 3-4 months later. This client contacts me and says, I can't believe everything you said is unfolding as we speak. This client sent me links of what's going on, the whole kit and caboodle, and it's just the beginning. Completely mind, boggled of how accurate this was. It was just an open read. I listened to what the client was talking about, and I just shuffled the cards while this client was talking, and I just laid them down. Okay. So in this case, it literally spoke on the situation and what to follow, so to speak. Okay. Now, if you have a particular question and you're seeking a particular divinity, if you will, an entity, then as you're shuffling, you focus on that entity and you invite them in for their guidance. So there's a couple of ways to do that. Some people just prefer the intuition of what the cards are reading. So, I mean, especially today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is
good point. Good point made, because if you're contacting a certain deity, that could lean towards, something a little different.
Exactly. So, I mean, left to their own devices, which is basically what I did for my client, and then picking the right associations, the spirits, if you will.
Yeah.
The characteristics of what you're seeking answers to. Different, say, for example, deities from, say, the Goetia, for an example. You have Murmur, Bifron, Seer, that deals with necromancy. You have you know, the 9 kings that deal with sciences, magics, and controlling men's minds, so to speak. Persuasion.
Right.
So I mean, there's different demons of different ranks that can do different things. So knowing their characteristics and what they're about, you can contact them through and say, "Hey, I invite you in for your wisdom, your guidance, and so forth." So you have to have the characteristics and the right associations.
Now, with some, depending on the divinity that or excuse me, the deity that you are contacting, um, it also depends on the deck that you're wanting to use with that deity, because
Exactly.
some deities will respond better and give you better answers if you use a particular type of deck that pertains to aspects of them. Would you agree with me?
I do. I have 7 decks. I was recently given a gift from one of my apprentices. Excuse me. One of my apprentices actually sent me the Santa Morte deck
Okay.
as a gift. So now I have 8 cartomancy decks, 2 rune decks, and 2 Ouija boards. So yeah, so I mean, it does help. I mean, I have everything from the Oracle decks to, say, for an example, just the my icon deck, of the dead. I have now the Santa Morte, deck, which is also associated with the dead. But I've also got the Fallen Angels deck. I've got the Vampiric decks. I love the Vampiric deck myself personally. It's my main deck, but it
I
does
do like some
help.
of the work on that. I think I've taken a peek at that, but I've got about 8 decks myself.
Yeah,
But I'm thinking like if and every deck will give the truth to you in a different way. So let's
yeah,
say,
exactly. The Revelation deck, for an example, deals with anything of prophecy, anything of revelations, if you will. You have, say, for an example, the Vampiric deck, like I mentioned earlier, the Ian Daniels deck that deals with emotion, mystical, physical, and life, if you will. You have the Oracle deck, or the how should I say this? Say, for an example, the Druid or the Celtic Druid Oracle deck, which deals with specific wisdoms. The Fallen Angels, deck, or the Demon deck, for an example. They all have something unique to bring to the table, but it
yeah,
goes with
if
association.
you're contacting a demon for divination, you probably want to use the demonic deck as
Yeah,
opposed to
exactly.
you know
Unless
the
you're talking with an angel like, say, Lucifer, Beelzebub, or Asmodeus, then you want to go with the fallen angel. But
right. It just goes to show that you gotta not only know the cards, but you also have, if you're gonna contact a deity, you have to know that deity very well. Do some homework, study what are aspects, what colors do they like, what's their
exactly,
personality like.
what scent attracts them?
Yeah,
One of the biggest things, like I sent you, is different grimoires that dealt with perfumes, dealt with incense, so this, the scent, but also things like charcoal and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to see that representation within cartomancy as well.
right. Now, going to page 27, this is part of the paragraph, first paragraph that's in there. A little more down from the first paragraph, it says, uh, this rhythmic breathing can be kept up for a minute or two. The sign of success is that feeling of withdrawal, similar to the one experienced before falling asleep, a sort of alert state of relaxation. And it is good to do rhythmic breathing before,
Yep.
instead of just going into it like if you're stressed out from work or from family or whatever, and you just go right into it. Take some time, do some rhythmic breathing, and try to get to that state of relaxation.
Like meditating before ritual.
Exactly. Exactly.
Number one, you're leaving the world behind. You're getting yourself relaxed. You're putting yourself in the right frame of mind. You're focusing on a particular, let's say, situation or topic.
Yeah.
What are you planning on doing in the ritual room, or in this case with cartomancy? What's the question you're going to ask?
Kind of
Who are you
focused
going to
on
call?
what you're going into.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, that is 100% accurate right there.
Okay, well, on page 26, um, second paragraph. Yeah, I'd probably say second paragraph in the middle. It says the cards as they are turned up must be allowed to flow into a story. The reader will find that this will be the point at which his previously experienced fantasy associations will begin to crop up again. However, he will also find that the juxtaposition of several cards, meaning the cards that are next to each other, as opposed to their single separate use, will begin to produce new aspects and new associations hitherto unexplored. Likewise, another's presence during the reading will also tend to bend the narrative in a certain direction. So the depending on the situation, the energy will be altered.
Right. You also got to consider how many cards you're using. Dealing with a single card, you got a lot of aspects to look at. It's a lot more advanced, a lot more complex. It's literally referred to as a prophecy type read because you're using one card.
Right.
Now, if you're using, say, let's say for an example, a 3-card read, or say the pyramid, which is 14 cards. You're dealing with multiple cards, and the more cards you have, the more information you have. So, I mean, you can break it down into what I normally do is I break it down into each card. What does the card represent? And then I start at the first one that I laid down and work my way to the very end, to the very last card I set down. And it reveals a story. It reveals everything that you're going through, have gone through, and will be going through, what you need to be looking at. And it really unfolds in a story that is mind blowing, but also like, wow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the thing is, if you do it that way, you can also tell if the person is lying to you. If they're talking like,
Right.
are you sure that's what you're really saying? Because this story that's coming out is saying something different.
And what I always tell my clients is when I do a reading, I don't just do a single reading on you for that one topic that you're asking about. I do no less than 6 reads, a half a dozen reads. And I look for common cards. I look for common symbols, different meanings. How many times did this particular card come up? How many times did, say, for an example, the symbols come up? Like, say, the zodiac signs, planetary, you know, because these things have meaning. These things have a purpose. There's a reason why they're popping up, which is why I recommend no less than 6, personally.
Yeah, a lot of people don't do multiple readings like that.
Yeah.
Do maybe just basic reading on that situation or one or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
But yeah, that is. But I do concur with that because it really fits with my own personal experiences.
Okay, so let's go to page 32. So it says, second paragraph down, serious tarot readers will often employ a special tabletop or cloth to deal the cards on. If a cloth is used, black silk is frequently chosen, traditionally regarded as a good insulator from magical vibrations, and thus providing a protected area into which the cards can be dealt, an idea having much in common with that of the sorcerer's magical circle. Some people do use a special cloth to deal them on. I know there's some people, like, let's say we'll have a cloth with Lilith on it, and then do the cards that way, putting that energy into the reading. But yeah,
For an example,
yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes when I have any cards, I always keep them wrapped up. But something like this,
yeah,
is a very good cloth to have because number one, it protects the cards when not in use. It keeps the natural lights off.
Yeah.
But it also helps to channel the reading because it's within a circle and you have a pentacle on it. But you don't have to utilize a pentacle every time, or you don't have to use a cloth. You can use, say, for an example, a triangle of evocation. If you have a circle, like say the universal circle, say for an example, let's go with any kind of symbol that's on the floor. A lot of people will go today within the, let's go with the white light path, the left hand path or the right hand path. They normally go within a double circle. If you're in a double circle, called a circle of protection or a circle of empowerment. It's basically what it is. It's a circle of empowerment. So you can do a reading right there. You don't need a cloth if you're in a ritual room, because that's a temple. It's a holy place. Okay. But if you're sitting at a desk or you're at a restaurant, out in public, like say at a park bench, having that cloth will protect your cartomancy deck, but it will also be like a portable altar, if you will.
Yeah, and good point made, because there's a lot of, like, especially if you go to a restaurant, there's so much people's energy that have put their hands on that table and infused it into, those vibrations affect the reading.
Exactly. So there we go. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned black silk. I often use black silk to
Yep.
put my cards in. It is good protecting the vibrations.
Mm-hmm. Black is basically void. So
okay, let's go to page 43. Second paragraph. It says, remember, they have to read as a unit, one card influencing and often totally changing the implications of another. Again, like it was mentioning the ones that are juxtaposition or next to each other.
yeah.
You can think it's going to unfold one way, and then you pull out a card next to that one. Like, okay, that just completely changes it.
And some cards really freak out the people getting the reading too. So
Yeah.
so it's like the devil card or the hell card. It's like, oh great, I'm going to hell.
Yeah,
Too
you
late,
see
you're
their
already there.
faces. They're like, oh, you pull that devil card out or the death card. You see their
Yeah.
faces. You're like, oh, just kind of want to chuckle, but you don't.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of like getting the exact change back 666. It's like, can we take something away or add something to this? It's like, what are you
You know,
that superstitious?
every time I get that on a receipt, I'm like, yes.
Yes.
So,
Thanks, you
but
just made my day.
um, now about when, like, say, what do you think about this? Like when you get a deck, let's say you get you go buy a deck, okay?
Yep.
It is good to, of course, you know, infuse it with your energy by allowing your hands to touch it, go through, look at the cards, whatever. But I think that it's also good to place them under your pillow so that when you sleep, they have a connection to your subconscious, you
Yep.
know, and the reading will come out a little better, and it'll be easier to interpret the cards that way. What do you think about that?
There are some practitioners that actually do that. Some will put them not just underneath the pillow, but underneath the mattress.
Mm.
So I mean, it helps channel it, but it also helps infuse your aura, your energy, your chi into the cards. So it's charging those cards at the same time. So, but if you're doing like a spell or some kind of ritual, right, you can use the cards that way to gain an insight.
Mm.
Think of the Akashic records, for an example. Not that I actually know anything about that, but it's just like
No,
infinite knowledge, so to speak.
no doubt you can infuse them with your energy by touching
Yeah,
them and having them
right.
on you and stuff like that. I just thought that just mention that you can have a subconscious link just by doing
You
that.
can. I
'Cause-
one of the things that I did was I actually use them for inside the pillowcase.
right.
And one of the cards, the only card that literally fell out one of the nights that I used it was was one of the major arcana cards, and it was the Tower card. And up until that point, I've been having one thing on my mind: what can I do to get past this? What can I do to get past this situation? You know, and all of a sudden that card came out, and it's like, damn, I was hoping to avoid that.
Yeah, it's just that happens to all of us. You get a reading, you're like, wait, that can't be true. Let me just reshuffle, and then it
Yep,
starts. A new
exactly.
card will pop up, but then another card will pop up that's similar, and it'll just tell you the
Yeah,
truth in a different way.
exactly. What's that old expression? The gate is narrow, but the roads are many. There are
Yeah.
many roads, but only one gate. And that is something that is very much true when it comes to cartomancy, especially in that state.
Now, keeping that thought in mind, there is no one set way to divine because really when it comes down to it, anyone who's experienced in cartomancy, has their own way of reading the cards. I mean,
Exactly.
you can't tell. Go ahead.
Look at the difference between Nicodemus, for an example, compared to, say, the Witch of Endor. Two different methods, but all led them
Yeah,
to one direction.
good point. Because you can't say you have to do it this way or you can't do it this way. Eventually everyone finds their own way of doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, is you have to find your own way. What works for you, not what works from somebody else's perspective.
That's why I tell people, who are, beginners in magic that, books. Yeah. If you're wanting to learn how to just do magic or do a spell, books will take you so far. Eventually you'll take the information from those books and you'll develop your own way. Now, it is good to be a scholar and you can find deeper truths by, reading more books. But as far as, doing basics of magic and doing spell work and stuff like that, eventually you'll just find your own way of doing it.
Exactly, you will. I mean, anybody who's been in the occult or the craft for any given time, at first it's all fun and games, but then you get serious about it, and next thing you know, you actually have a routine down.
Yeah.
You've developed a routine, and that's the way it goes.
Well, it's been a nice discussion here. Do you have anything that you're working on you want to go ahead and plug before we end this video?
I've just been doing a lot of rituals, a lot of studying, just spending a lot of time with myself, self-mastery. Just I've been focusing on myself, my work, getting into routines, getting everything back in order since the breakup, and my ex, my son's mom, and really applying the. Let's just say I just passed the quarter mark in a 2.25 year spiritual journey.
Okay.
That's why I got off social media, is because I'm doing this. So March was actually the 3rd month, and here we are starting the 4th. So
numerology.
Oh yeah.
It's been good having you on. It's been a while since you've been on the
This
channel.
really helps. I will tell you that.
Yeah, this book does give good insights into cartomancy. I've probably read it 3-4 times, but I just thought I'd kind of grab that and kind of go through some of the portions I've highlighted and studied and just have a discussion on it. But yeah, go ahead and pick it up. You can get it on Amazon, The Devil's Picture Book. Paul Hudson, Hyson and I might come back and do a follow-up video to this because there's so much more material to cover.
There is. Much. Especially once you get into the offerings book and you get into the herbalism book, you get into the Mastering Witchcraft by him. it all leads right into them. And
Yeah, I wanted to do Master of
interconnects.
Witchcraft, but I lent that book to somebody, never got it back. So I'm gonna have to get another copy. So I just decided to just do something.
Amazon.
Yeah, there's always Amazon. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And everybody who's watching, like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.